All right. What's up, everybody? This is Lauren, and today we are live for another Reinventing drawing group with Ricardo Sturdivant. Today is Tuesday, so every single Tuesday you can find us right here at 10 a.m. Doing all sorts of stuff. Today we're going to focus on directional lighting. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Please drop us a comment or let us know where you're beaming in from on the YouTube or podcast channels. Of course, we will be watching the chat throughout the show today. So if you're beaming in from somewhere, let us know. Or tag a friend who loves tattoos because they might actually find today's show pretty interesting. Beyond that, we want to also thank you to all of our sponsors for providing this community to you guys for free, which is pretty awesome. We have so much stuff going on, from our courses to our regular shows to our podcast, all sorts of stuff. In fact, we're actually beaming out 24/7 at reinventing247.com. There you can go and you can actually see all sorts of shows that are always on, including the live shows. Some pretty cool stuff. But thank you to Alex at World Tattoo Events at worldtattooevents.com for helping us out and providing this cool stuff to you for free. They have the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events in the world. It's constantly expanding as well. Also, thank you to Intersync Inc. LA. Those guys are located in LA, and you can find them at Intersync Inc. LA on Instagram. Also, Raw Pigments, an ink company that is tapping into the source with acrylic-free pigments that are soon going to be available in more places around the world. We've also got Tattoo Now, which is tattoo technology for tattooers. Thank you, Gabe, so much for all the work and energy you put into everything. And also Guy Aitchison. Of course, we all know him for his amazing work over the last 25 years with the Reinventing curriculum. And now it's kind of going along with the times. We've got it online as well, and it's constantly expanding with Monday night evening classes that Guy leads with people you can join if you subscribe to the Canon. You can do that at courses.reinventingthetattoo.com. We also have a bunch of cool upcoming events. December 8th, we're going to do like a round table with Gabe. So make sure you're tuning in and set on those reminders on our YouTube channel for the events that we post. It'll be really easy. It links with your Google Calendar. And yeah, we'll see you there. But today I'm going to go ahead. We've got a few people on with us now. Ricardo, like I said, is going to be talking about directional lighting. And we've got Jason Santos here as well. So Ricardo, how's it going? You're on mute right now.
Hey, sorry about that. I didn't want to interrupt you while you're doing your thing.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here every Tuesday morning, same place, same time. But what I was actually referring to is the event that's called Reinventing the Tattoo Now Community Zoom. And those are super cool. It's scheduled for December 8th, which is tomorrow. Today is Pearl Harbor Day, you guys. So that's a very significant day in the United States that we all take the time to recognize every year. But tomorrow on December 8th, the community Zoom is something you do not want to miss.
Yeah, I think I'm going to definitely check that out. Today is an important day for me too. It definitely is. It affects all of us in one way or another, however long ago that was, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. So today's also my sister's birthday. So happy birthday if you're watching.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty
And
cool.
what's her name?
Anna. Her name is Anna.
Happy birthday, Anna.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, you know, we've been talking with Guy quite a bit, and I think what we're going to be doing this month is we're going to be focusing on lighting. For me, I know that it affects. It helps us create a lot of mood and stuff like that goes on in our pieces, in our artwork. I enjoy trying to implement it as much as possible. And what I mean by trying is because sometimes I fail miserably. Last night on the class with Guy, drawing with Guy last night, I discovered how difficult it can be whenever you're trying to use your imagination to create this lighting. And we were talked about a little bit, we glossed over the fact about using a live study and stuff like that. So today I set up a live study with this boar's head. And I was gonna go with the old reliable skull, which I love doing skulls and stuff like that. So we went ahead and stuck with a skull. But this time we just changed the species up a little bit, right? So we'll be kind of going over that a little bit later. But right now, usually what I do is I kind of open up with something that I've been thinking about for the past week or so. And I think it's kind of crazy how the timing fell into place with lighting. because of what I've been thinking about recently has been communication. We all do this thing where we use our words, we use our intentions and stuff like that to kind of convey these ideas that we might have. A lot of the times we end up getting convoluted or kind of misunderstood in that process, and that's unfortunate. So it's pretty cool to be able to be a part of this system where we use these words and these sounds and stuff like that, and images, most importantly for us to get these points across. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times what happens is we're too afraid to even initiate that process. And I talk about that quite a bit too. But in communicating, it can be basically boiled down to something as simple as like it's the act of transferring information, right? Or from one place, a person or a group to another. And we do that as artists with images. We create these images and that hopefully tell a story or an idea or make you kind of smile at something. You know what I mean? When you see these, like, I think one tattoo I saw recently was the Bernie Sanders, where he's kind of like got his legs crossed. He's got those mittens on that everybody's making a rant and rave about. And there's this little tattoo in this dude's leg. It was perfect. And it was just gave you a chuckle. You know what I mean? So something as simple as that can make you laugh. Something as serious as like a memorial tattoo. You know what I mean? It's such a broad spectrum. And we do that in a way of implementing lighting, right? Especially since lighting, the direction of lighting, especially, it can convey a mood or a feeling. You know what I mean? So like when I was talking about the Bernie Sanders thing, you know what I mean? They nailed it. It was pretty perfect. It was a replication of the image itself. And it was turned into the tattoo language as far as like the fundamentals of it and everything like that. So that was a great example of it. But what I'm talking about is something like directional lighting. It can convey a lot of strength. It can convey a lot of emotions as far as recognizing simple shapes. You know what I mean? And I talk about that quite a bit. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about communication today, except for I've just been thinking about it a lot, and it's important for us to kind of recognize that in our artwork. And again, it's kind of serendipitous, right? That we talked about lighting this month. I've been thinking about it quite a bit, especially because I've been trying my best this year, especially to like just get it all out, like put it out there and be vulnerable to whatever it is that might come up. Let's see. I like a lot of Stoic kind of ideology. And I think one of the things that I think about is this quote that I found it. I wanted to look it back up, but Epictetus, he's a Stoic philosopher. One of his quotes is, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." I always like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Starting with why. Like the question of why is it that I'm interested in this image? Why is it that I'm wanting to light it in the way that I want to light it? And what story is it that I'm going to be telling about that? So we'll kind of go over some lighting stuff today. But first of all, I just wanted to say hello to everybody in the room. And I'm having a hard time seeing what is going on the screen. So good morning, everybody. How's it going?
Good morning, Jason.
It goes.
I love the red
Nice.
apron.
Thank you.
Hey, look at that. Yeah, there you
Keeps
are. I
my
see you
clothes
now.
clean.
Don't forget to say hello to Bruno in the chat. Thanks, Bruno, for watching, as always.
Bruno, what's up, dude?
Ricardinho.
Ricardinho, yep. Yeah, so Jason, I do like that apron, dude. It's pretty funny. Last week before class, I was painting a little bit and I ended up getting some straight across my chest, dude. It was terrible. I was like, how the hell did I get oil paint on my shirt? So the end of this brush, but how the hell did it get there, dude? Like, you're thinking ahead, aren't you?
Dude, I've been wearing this apron since college. So, 15 years
Can you
worth
stand
of,
up and do a twirl?
well, I mean, just to show you like all of the crap that's gotten on it over the years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at that.
But it's handy. It's got 2 front pockets. Very utilitarian. I keep an HB pencil in one of them. And I think this is, yeah, it's another HB pencil. And the other one, palette knives. Yeah, and another pencil.
Nice. So you got all the tools handy dandy right there.
Yeah, if I need more palette knives, I have more palette knives.
We did have Santo in the Zoom this morning, but I think he jumped off. He says good morning. So what's up, Santo? Thanks for watching. I should.
Hello, Santo. Next time you're in, man, chime in. Let's hear where you're from. Let's talk about what you're doing, how long you've been tattooing, etc. All the good stuff. Can you guys hear me pretty well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Coming
cool.
through loud and clear.
Right on. These are Gabe's favorite earphones, so I make sure to have. I bought like 2 more pairs just to make sure.
Earphones.
What are they?
Yeah.
Just a regular.
Yeah, just the regular Apple earbuds. You know what I mean? Like the hard connection and everything too. So I was using those Bluetooth ones, but it sounded like they were kind of distant whenever I heard them. I had somebody else use them, and I was like, "What the hell?" But these are much better. Yeah. I mean, let's see. I mean, we can talk a little bit more about directional lighting real fast. You know, basically, the way I've come to understand.
Let's go through and clarify what you mean when you say directional lighting.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to do. Thank you very much. You know, directional lighting is basically where you point your light or where your light source is coming from. It's as simple as the direction of a 45-degree angle onto a subject matter, or a 90-degree angle onto a subject matter, or a 15-degree angle onto a subject matter, whether it's coming from the perspective of the viewer or from behind the viewer, you know, behind the subject matter. It doesn't matter where you implement it at. The only thing is that there's one light source that is pointing in one single direction. That is what I mean by directional lighting. You know, this describes where the light is coming from, where it falls. You know what I mean? Being like what it illuminates, right? And where the shadows fall and what shapes they take due to the direction of this light source. I talk about that a lot in a lot of the simplification of the shapes and finding your form within the shape. Directional lighting is one of the most implemented and strong sources to be able to like create like this, how would you say it? Like this informative picture. You know, basically what we try to do, and I talk about this quite a bit, is we take a 2D surface and we're trying to trick the eye into believing that there's like a third dimension in it. And directional lighting helps achieve that quite a bit. We can talk a little bit more next week about ambient lighting, which I really enjoy. And that helps invoke emotion and stuff like that too, especially with a lot of the floral work that you'll see sometimes. And this doesn't necessarily, you know, go into or translate into tattooing with ambient lighting very well, because you got to think about longevity and stuff like that. There's a language with tattooing that comes into play where you have to kind of take what is there and kind of amplify it, usually by about 3 or 4, sometimes even 10 times more than what you would normally do, like in a painting or something like that, as far as the amount of saturation that you would normally perceive in a painting versus a tattoo, right? So next week we'll talk a little bit more about ambient lighting and how we can kind of implement some of that stuff. And then we will, let's see, go over a little bit more about what the defining point of directional lighting is. Jason, let's see. Tell me what you think about this. I think it also have an impact on your image, right? Choosing your light source angles is not only choosing what is lit and what is not, it's about creating shape and depth. It's about bringing out 3 dimensions until we already talked about that, all that stuff. Good deal. So, I mean, where are you at with that, Jason? What do you think about it?
So, I mean, light is one of the most critical. Light, directional light, form, value, it all stems from light, right?
Yeah.
Without light, we can't see shape. We can't see value because nothing has form, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Without light, there is no dark.
Yep.
So if we don't have a light source, how can we have a shadow?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the stronger that light source is and the more directional it is, when you're dealing with single point light source, I think the more dynamic of a piece it ends up being.
Yes.
You know, and who doesn't want a dynamic piece? You know, whether it's a tattoo or a painting, It's what gives your darks that strong black shadow. You know, without that strong black shadow and some bright white highlights in the right spot, your tattoo is going to look really, really flat. You know, that's assuming that you're going for something more dimensional. There
Yeah.
might be people out there that are not going for something dimensional. They want to achieve a more flat sticker-like look, and that's fine. That's cool. You know, there's definitely a niche for that. You know, but I'm a huge advocate of, you know, create, even if it's only in one spot, create some depth and dimension. You know, give it a little bit of form, a little bit of punch to it. You know, and the best way to create that punch so that it really stands out is light, strong directional
Absolutely.
light.
Absolutely. It's not only that, but it's also recognizing that positive and negative relationship between light and dark, like you're talking about. You know what I mean? I think it is one of the things that I wanted to talk about first. I think ambient light could have been talked about first, to be honest with you, like a gradation of sorts. But I think since we're talking about to a lot of tattoo artists that are viewing, I think it's important to kind of mention, like what you said, Jason. It is a strong contrast between the light and dark, and in tattooing, that's kind of what you need in order to make those impacting images, like, and then make them last really for, you know, the longevity of the life of the tattoo, and be self-assured that you're not going to have to worry about it fading, you know, so fast or too quick. You know what I mean? Like I've seen some tattoos that, like especially some of the watercolor tattoos, you know what I mean? Like I've seen a lot of them and they look great, you know, especially some of the ones that some of the clients bring in, where you'll have this image where, as a tattoo artist, as a person that's been tattooing for a while, you know that it was just a photo that they took for their portfolio. You know what I mean? And I think that it's got its time and place, but I think it's important to recognize that dynamic lighting can implement and transfer over into a strong tattoo. What do you think about that?
Well, dynamic lighting is what makes for a strong tattoo.
Exactly.
You know, that is one of the key elements of what provides that type of longevity.
Right.
Without that, you know, you're not going to have very dark shadows. You're not going to have, you know, those saturated black areas that's really going to help that tattoo hold its form over time.
Right.
You know, and if the tattoo's not designed to last as long as it possibly can, then what are you even doing?
Right.
I don't know. That's also the way that I was brought up. There are different philosophies in that, and everyone's got their own, you know, opinion on that, and that's fine. This is just simply what I personally believe. Like, there's one philosophy of going through and doing the tattoo because it is a lifetime thing.
Right.
You know, it is a lifetime alteration to the way that you look.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, right? And we are practitioners of that. There's another philosophy out there, and I think you find it a lot with a lot of people that might not have been in this industry for very long.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, well, it doesn't really matter how long it's going to last. If it's what the client wants, it's what the client wants.
Right. And we've talked about that in the past. And I do think that it's a time and place for a lot of that. You know what I mean? Especially now with how information can be transferred over to like the person that searches it out. You know what I mean? Like it's all there. A lot of times I've had some pretty informative clients, and they know that they want what they're looking for. And a lot of times they have come in with these soft tattoos where they want just red. And they're like, yes, I've read about it. I know what might happen with my tattoo and stuff like that, but I want to go ahead and do it. And I think that's where it's up to you as the artist or as the business owner, so to speak, as far as like what approach you want to take after that is kind of spoken. And if not by the client, then definitely by you as the responsible tattoo artist has to be able to translate that over to the client for sure.
Well,
Because
that's part of our responsibility being tattoo artists, right? Part of our responsibility isn't just applying a tattoo.
Yeah.
It's educating the client.
Yes, exactly. Like it's so awesome, you know, guy's been tattooing for what did he say, 30 years in October? You know what I mean? And to be in his classes on Monday nights and stuff like that and hear him talk about like those opportunities that we have with clientele where they might say, this is exactly what I want. This is exactly what I want it. And you're like, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. But for us as the tattoo artists, we have to take that opportunity to be able to speak and educate, you know what I mean? Instead of getting frustrated and stuff like that, which a lot of us can do. I know I've been guilty of it in the past for sure. Like answering the same questions from the clientele and stuff like that, for example, you know, but yeah, no, I agree with you, man. It is a responsibility. It's a huge one too, you know, especially when it comes to the monetary value of things, you know, and people not wanting to feel like they might be get ripped off or something like that too. I know that it's important for people to feel like they got what they wanted, but at the same time, you having the education or the background of the information, it's kind of like you said, it's a responsibility of us to do that for them, for sure.
Yeah, it's
Couldn't agree
don't
more.
get me wrong. We've all been in those situations where, you know, we've got bills coming up that need to be paid.
Mhm,
We've all been there.
mhm.
And you know what? That's not going to change. You know,
No,
that's not going to, we are always going to have bills that are due. We are always going to have, you know, things that we need to be saving for, things that we need to pay off. That's a given at this point in
mhm.
time.
Yep.
That cannot be your excuse for cutting the corner.
No, I agree with you completely. Definitely not, dude. That's bad practice, man. Just on you. And what does that say about the other things that you practice the same way in your life, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back
Yeah.
on lighting, I think lighting can also create the desired mood and emotion, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you're seeing something lit from below, right? If I have a bottom up light source, that's going to give it a much more creepy kind of a look, you know,
That's
as
exactly
opposed
it.
to something more like a top down, which is pretty much the default for most artists out there, which is cool. You know,
Yeah.
it's usually my go-to is straight top down light source. Um, you know, every now and then I'll mix it up and I'll do like a sideways light source. But, you know, I do top down light source quite a bit just
Yeah.
because it's easy. You know, it's easy, it's a default. Cool, fine. Not a problem.
It's yeah, I agree with you. And I don't think it's just easy. I think it's like also it's like when you pick up a kid's book, man. You know what I mean? At a child's reading level.
Whoa,
You know
whoa,
what I
whoa.
mean?
You leave my library alone, okay?
Like,
Just
okay,
because I don't have anything beyond like a 6-year-old reading level doesn't mean anything.
very good,
Picture
very
books
good.
tell stories too.
Right, exactly. Oh, dude, I love graphic novels, man. I love graphic novels for the same reason that I love action figures, not toys, right?
They are action figures,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, exactly. But no, man, yeah. But what I was saying about that top down lighting, I think it's one of the ways that we can translate an image, like as far as what I was saying earlier about communication. You know, like it's one of the most recognizable ways to kind of perceive shape, and it's one of its simplest forms. I feel, you know, and it's easier as like you said. You know what, you're right though. I think that there's some truth to what you're saying because like as an artist, it is easier to kind of convey that with that process because it might be an easier step. And but is that because we can all, as people, and our eyes, the way our eyes work and perceive like light and shadow, is it because of that that it makes it easier? You know?
It's a good question.
Yeah. I think it's a good question to kind of ponder on. I mean, but you know, like with anything else, the more you practice, the more some of these like more complex kind of light sources do work out. Like I said, dude, last night, man, like I struggled with that little dude. You know, I struggled with that little character that I was making up. Like I tried to make it up as much out of my mind as I could. And it was wild, dude, without having the information or a subject matter to kind of like reference. It kind of threw me off a little bit, man. It took me a little while to get the grasp of it.
Yeah, last night's exercise was
Welcome,
really,
Melissa, to
really
the
tricky.
Zoom. She's hopping on right now.
Melissa,
What's up, Melissa?
Haven't actually seen Melissa in a while. Thanks for joining.
Hey guys.
what's up, dude?
Hey.
How's it going?
Busy as usual,
That's a good thing. It's a good problem to have, right?
right?
Right. So thanks for joining. I know it's pretty early out there for you.
I'm trying to get my camera set up here. Give me a sec. 'Cause I'm trying to figure out. There it is.
Hey, there you are. What up?
Oh, sec. One of my light stand camera things died on me, so I'm reworking with
Oh,
the
that's okay.
Glamcore light.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
What do you think
I
about those
love my
lights? You like them?
Glencore.
I've had this one for about a year, year and a half. I like them. Switching over to iPad from my Android tablet's kind of a bear because I don't have the USB plug-in anymore, so I have like this super short cord for my iPad when I'm working.
Yeah.
And I tried getting a longer one from Apple, but it doesn't really work that great because it's not USB-C at the one end. So yeah, that's the only issue I'm having with it right now. As far as the light goes itself, it's awesome. It has been the whole time.
That's right.
It's some light on this here.
You
I've
joining
been
us in
trying to
the draw?
catch. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to ask if what you were working on today, but go ahead and do with what you're saying. You're trying to catch what now?
Oh, I've been trying to catch up with the morning drawing groups, but they're always so stinking early.
Yeah.
This morning I just happened to be up, so I was like, hey.
Well, I appreciate all the hangout sessions, man. It's awesome to have you here.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Always off over here in my own little world.
You know, that was one of the things that I recognized right away with the reinventing the tattoo app, man. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I feel like there's a community here, you know? That was one
Yeah.
of the coolest things that I got out of it right away. Was that sense of community for sure.
Well, I mean, it's a whole bunch of people that are connecting because we all do what we do. You know, it's common ground.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that says a lot about who we are as individuals and the fact that we are connecting with other people that do the same thing. You know,
Right.
trying to learn, trying to expand, trying to build more of a community, as opposed to being so shut off for so many years as a lot of tattooers were.
Oh yeah, big time, dude.
Well, heck, I'm still off in my own little studio, just me. So being able to interact with you guys, it's been huge for me.
Likewise. Yeah, I got the same thing going on here too. I have a private studio. I love it. But it's awesome to be able to have like other artists to kind of bounce ideas off of, or just get critiqued on, or just somebody to go, that doesn't look that great. I'm like, oh yeah, fucking do it.
Were you drinking when you did that, Ricardo?
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
Always a possibility.
Yep.
I'm not saying it hasn't been done.
Right. Or, you know, we have our own drunk critique.
That would be a mess.
It was that one night.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Welcome here to the chat as well. She just hopped on. She's getting her camera set up, I'm sure.
All right. Who's coming in?
Kier.
All right, Kier. What up, dude? So what you working on today, Melissa? I think Jason's working on his skull painting again today, which is freaking amazing. We'll have to get some views on that here in a little bit.
I started this painting probably 8-9 months ago, somewhere in there. It's just something that I started landscaping, and then I threw this creature thing in there for one of the other paint jams. And I did like the white coat on it over Thanksgiving real quick, but I haven't really worked on it a lot since then. So I kind of wanted to progress a little bit, give some more layers on it.
Very awesome.
I'm really bad about starting a painting and then taking like a huge hiatus. And then I go back into it. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing, man. And this year I was so active in all the classes and stuff like that I had all these this material now from pictures that I've made during the classes and stuff like that. So I'm excited to put together this like collage this year. So, but there are a couple things that I'm like trying to finish up because it's like I think what I'd like to try to do this next year is start a project, actually finish a project. Because like
Right.
I'm the same way, Melissa. I have all these little paintings just scattered about everywhere that are just like, man, when am I going to finish that? I don't know. Like I'll have this conversation with myself. Like,
What's
sit
funny
down.
is that you feel so good when you get them done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like all of the in between, you're going, man, am I ever going to get this thing done?
Yep. Yeah. And then like, again, to go back on this thing with the tattoo artist and being in the same community, it's awesome when somebody else takes a look at it and they go, well, what if you were to add a little bit more here or a little bit more contrast or a little bit more like, kind of glazing in these areas or something like that. Like, I love that part of it. Because to be honest with you, with a lot of my paintings and stuff like that, I always feel like they're kind of unfinished. So I'll just kind of be like, okay, it's done. I'm walking away. You know what I mean? So when you get that other perspective, it's great, because you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is. That's what it's missing. And then you're like, now it's finished. But which also, again, brings into question, like, what is it that made it finish? Was it us or was it, was it the fact that we finally got that approval? I don't know, man. Sometimes I wonder, but no. Anyways.
I would be one of those artists that, hypothetically speaking, if any of my stuff were to ever end up in a museum, I would be one of those artists that would come in with like a full backpack worth of gear. And I would sit down, even if it was already framed, and I'd be like, no, I just need a little bit more just right there.
Exactly.
And I'd probably get arrested for it, but I would have that sense of like, okay, that's good enough for today,
Yeah. What was that? Which sculptor was it that there was that conversation they had with him where they had hired him to come in and do a sculpture, a couple of them actually. I think it was Michelangelo. They're like, they would go into the room where he was sitting with this big piece of marble, and they would always ask him like, what are you doing? You're just sitting there having lunch, or what are you doing? You're just sitting there having like a break and stuff like that. Like, no, I'm working. Like, what are you not doing anything? It's like, no, I'm actually waiting for that piece of marble to show me what's inside that wants to come out. Like, that's fucking incredible. I always think about that. And then so they want to go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say, that's usually what I tell clientele whenever they're like, where's my drawing? I'm like, well, I've been waiting for it to kind of come into, fruition. That's all. Just joking.
I have a tendency to stand back and look at something from a distance for like hours when I get to that sticking point.
Yep. Yeah, that's why when they talk about the classes that I've taken in painting and stuff like that, we've talked, two different instructors have talked about the importance of being able to take your picture and kind of like turn it upside down even, or turn it sideways or look at it through the mirror. I think Jason and I and Guy were talking about that whenever we were down at Hyperspace over the summer. And it was pretty cool. I think he brought up an artist that worked with nothing but mirrors, didn't he?
Yeah, he would be looking into a mirror behind him. Yeah. Just so that he could see it from a distance without actually having to step away from the canvas.
Right. Which is incredible. It's like the breaking that, what do they call it, the fourth wall in movies and stuff, you know what I mean? You're like, whoa. Share the screen again. I figured I'd stop sharing the screen for a little while so we could all hang out. I could see what you guys are doing. So Melissa, with that painting, what do you plan on doing with that that image that's on top of all that background?
Oh, it's going to be fully finished out. It's just, I have a tendency when I'm working with acrylic to not really do a lot of pre-planning because I just
Uh-huh.
layer in.
Mhm.
Whereas with oil, I plan it out first. So with acrylic, I wind up just painting over the top. I'm like, hey, a creature would be really cool in here. So I just put it in. It's one layer. It's basically just there to kind of be roughed in. So I know where it is. But prior to that, I put in everything behind it because I hate having to like come up to these teeny tiny little areas where it connects and separates.
Mhm.
And like finesse that. I'd rather just get the whole like vision of it mostly done before I put something else in the foreground.
Ah, I see. Gotcha.
With
You,
oil, I plan it out. So
yeah. You know, it's crazy how we can all approach the same, like one medium so many different ways. It's awesome to hear you. But so you want it, so am I understanding it right that like you want it a little bit cleaner? Is that what you mean? Like when you put it on top of the background like that?
yeah, it's like I don't want to have to sit there and like get
Yes.
like right up into that and stuff. I want it to be a little bit more freeing. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of times with acrylic, I leave it open-ended so I can kind of play. Um,
Hmm.
so I get all the background stuff and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what else do I want to do with this? And at that point, all I'm doing is adding to the foreground. So I'm not having to worry about, oh, I should have put a little bit lighter purple in here, you know, or man, I have to go back in here and then jump back into this other paint because I should have backed it up a layer, you know, and done this when I was doing this.
Hmm. I do understand that. It can be like it almost feels like tedious and time consuming more than anything else, doesn't it?
Yeah, with
Yeah.
oil paints, it's a lot more tedious, whereas this, I can just go right the heck over it and I'm good with it.
Hmm. Do you use a lot of mediums
Like,
whenever you paint with acrylics, or is it just the water?
um, sometimes I'll use a polymer, a GAC, um,
Okay.
but I've found I have this one of the wet palettes,
Huh.
and this paint actually has been in there for 3 weeks and it's still wet, um, and it's acrylic. So I wind up just thinning out and doing, you know, all the thin layers and stuff more than the GAC. I kind of tried it both ways, and I like this better.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've heard of GAC
Um,
as far
uh,
as in painting goes.
Golden acrylics. It's just a polymer thinner.
Okay.
Um, it's not. You don't get the transparency unless you go really thin with it. But
Hmm.
it kind of like stretches out your paint if you start with like a heavier acrylic. These are Arteza. I haven't tried the heavy body acrylic. I actually just bought some today. But these have a nice pigment load. So when you
Hmm.
thin it out with the polymer, it actually doesn't get super translucent unless you're really adding it in.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of like when you use a liquid with the oil paints.
Gotcha. Okay. We've been using, Jason and I've been using well, first of all, I think Kier's messed with the heavy body acrylics quite a bit, haven't you, Kier?
Hi, good morning. I didn't want to interrupt, so I was waiting my turn. Hello.
Good morning.
Hey, Kier, good morning.
Yeah, I've been messing with those heavy body acrylics for a little bit. I like them a lot. What I wouldn't do is use them like right away on a fresh canvas, because that's what I did first. That skull painting I did right away at Paradise BYB, and I probably wouldn't do that again. But they're really nice and tinted, if that makes sense.
Why wouldn't you, Kier?
Don't mind me, I'm just making. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Because I just think it's just way too pigmented for straight up, like immediately. Like it's not good for building up an underpainting first. and then going into like a more saturated tone, like it's immediately like cutthroat saturated. It may leave it like a little gunky and give it more texture, which if that's what you want, then that's cool. But if you're trying to like render something or build up a painting, then I would not start off with heavy bodies immediately, unless you're using medium, like a slow drying medium or like a thinner, like you're using.
How is it for dry time comparative to normal acrylic?
It depends how like thick you're approaching it, if that makes sense. Like the dry time really, it is very fast, but it all depends on how quick you're working into that area, I guess, too. You know, because I'll be working into one area and the heavy bodies won't dry and they'll actually blend really nice. And then sometimes I want it to dry really fast to give it like more of like a glazing effect. So, but just by adding water, you can just layer on top of it and it will dry with like only like opacity type deal, not so much a saturated deal, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like the way you explained that because it's definitely like a building up process for sure. Like with a lot of mediums,
Yeah.
that's the cool part. That's the cool part about a lot of mediums, right? Is that like you can kind of like blend quite a bit more, and you can kind of kind of structure things a little bit more, a little bit slower pace, but it kind of the form kind of starts to appear a little bit more naturally that way. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of like you can lay the base tones of what it is, the first tonal value that you see, like when you're using colors, like a tonal study, you know what I mean? Like you can lay those first darker tones down and then you start building up the lighter tones after that. And you can kind of, it helps implement that shade for the shapes and stuff like that a little bit easier for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just speaking personally for myself as well, opinion wise. Some people might want to go
Yeah.
straight off the bat, super opaque like that. But it was definitely an eye opener going from those like softer body acrylics to the heavy body acrylics. I definitely had to adjust how much water I was using for sure. And I learned that a little bit goes a very, very long way if you wanted to. But it's very good for like color mixing your palette as well, because then you won't have to use so much paint just to get like to that one color that you want. You can just color mix that one color you need with less, in my opinion, with the heavy bodies.
Right.
And I used only them on that skull painting I did, and I haven't even put a dent into those tubes, so they go pretty far.
I do like the subject matter in your painting though, Melissa. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna I see what everybody else is working on too. I don't see Jason's though.
I think she's calling you out, man. I think she wants you to show your hand.
Also, what's up to Neil Foster? Thanks for
Hello.
watching. He's Neil's in the chat saying good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, Neil.
What's up, Neil? How's it going, man?
So I'm just kind of working on detailing, doing a little bit more push and pull. I started to add some of that nice texture into the lower mandible.
There you go.
There you go, buddy. There it is.
Throwing some of those nice like little detail cracks in there, which I'm probably going to go back and glaze over top of to make them a little bit more subtle.
Yes, for sure.
So I'll add another layer of like a whitish tone over top of that once it dries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just trying to detail out some of those like very subtle ridges a little bit more. Yeah, I was marking down a couple of areas that I want to go back through and add some more contrast to last night. That's why you see like this blue.
Mm-hmm.
That's a colored pencil.
Ah.
So, yeah, non-photo blue.
Yeah, okay.
You can still see some of it in the teeth where I was marking out areas last night. Down here on the lower mandible, you can see like it's kind of tricky to see, but like in this general area, you can see almost like a bluish haze.
Mm-hmm.
So
Not purple haze, bluish haze.
yes, no, purple haze is while that would be fun while painting, I do have to go to work today. So that might not be a very wise decision.
Yeah. So explain to me what that pencil is that you're talking about. It's a non-photo blue. Is that what you called it?
Correct. Non-photo
Okay.
blue pencil was designed by graphic artists.
Mhm.
And essentially it is a very, very specific shade of light blue that does not show up on copiers or printers or scanners or anything like that. Because it's so light and because it's in a very specific wavelength of light, it doesn't show up. So you could go through, sketch something in a non-photo blue, do like a dark black line drawing over top of the non-photo blue, photocopy that, and the only thing that would appear is the black.
Oh,
Kind
wow,
of
okay.
the shorthand for pre-digital.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a pre-digital transparent layer.
Gotcha. That's cool. Well, man, like I think I've been asking you about this from the beginning of seeing your painting, but I was wondering if you're going to start introducing any color into it at all, like to help create some different kind of value in it. I was
Honestly,
wondering
at
if
this point in time, man, I don't know if I want to.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
adding some like Payne's gray and some ultramarine into some of my cooler shadows,
Mhm.
and a little bit of like what is it? It's a raw umber into
Yeah.
some of my whites to kind of warm those up a little bit, to start playing with a little bit more of like a color temperature contrast. But I think right now I'm primarily just focused on blocking in some of those more subtle dark and light areas.
Killer. Yeah, I just wondered. I like the way that you described it as the cooler values or the cooler shadows and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly what I was thinking about. Like, I dig it. You're doing a great job. It looks killer already, man. All the
And
information's there.
Just because it may be monochromatic doesn't mean that there's not going to be subtle color variation in it, if that makes
Right.
sense.
No, totally.
You know who taught me that?
Who's that?
Kier.
There you go. Kia.
What happened?
What happened?
You're a genius.
Oh man, no. I have COVID, but I don't think it's a genius. I don't
You
think
have
of
black plague.
it.
You have black plague.
You want to hear the absolute most Kier thing that I did from COVID?
What's that?
So I knew I had COVID before my test results came back because of the taste and smell thing. Like I was just sitting, eating my grilled cheese and my tomato soup. And I was like, man, this tastes like really bland. I was like, wait a minute. I can't taste this at all. So I get up and I'm like, oh boy, oh no. And I grab lemon juice, like 100% pure lemon juice. And I pour myself like a little tiny shot glass, like a little tiny bit. I'm like, if I'm going to test, if I don't have taste, I'm going to do this right.
Oh my gosh.
So I took a full shot of 100% lemon juice and it tasted like straight up water.
Oh my
man.
god.
No.
Dang,
Oh,
dude.
when was this?
I had like zero reaction in the face. I was like, this is water. This is insane. This is
When was that, kid?
so yeah. I think that's when you can tell you have COVID, when you can drink.
Here, that's crazy. I wish I would have seen that. That would have been like a super cool challenge, like minus the COVID part, but now it'd be a food challenge time.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. And then when I got it back, it was even better because I just made myself like oatmeal with like nothing for like the past couple days because like it doesn't matter because I can't taste it. So I was just sitting on the couch and I was talking to my mom and I took a bite of the oatmeal and I was like, ugh. I was like, this tastes like horrible. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yay!
Horrible.
It's come back.
So then I did the lemon juice thing again and that was horrible.
You were
That
like
was
so
the
happy
worst.
that it was like bland and tasteless, dude. You're like, this is so fantastic.
I've never felt more grateful in my life to be able to taste food. That's for sure. I was like, I will never forget the fact I can taste food. I still can't smell anything, but I can
What
taste a
about,
little bit.
doesn't it kind of make you feel bad about the people that like suffer head injuries and they can't, they used to be able to taste and then now they can't? Have you ever heard about that?
Yeah, some people that have had COVID that I've learned still can't taste after like months of having it, which is got
Yeah.
me worried.
Yeah. You're
I
like,
couldn't.
oh no.
I can't imagine, honestly. Like, just I can't even describe to you what it like tasted like. All I could taste was the temperature. That was it.
Oh, that's interesting. Taste the
But can you
temperature.
taste
The
the
temperature.
colors?
No, I wish I could. That'd be some magical stuff that I think I would probably be able to do, if anything.
I don't know, man. I think olive would taste pretty terrible. Or would olive actually taste like an olive? You know what I mean? Because if that's the case, then sign me up. But
I wonder what like raw umber would taste like.
raw umber.
Yeah, but like if you had to associate, never mind. I'm getting off topic here.
Yeah. Is there a topic?
So
Oh,
I
man.
We were
have,
talking about lighting.
Yeah. You have
I'm going to
what?
score you for 1 second. I have a client who has smell, like her sense of smell comes and goes, and this was all pre-COVID. So I'll be like using Bactine, and she's like, "What's that smell?" I'm like, "Oh, you can smell. Hi, this is Bactine."
That's
That's the
awesome.
weirdest thing.
I just don't. I can't imagine my life without the smell or taste. That would suck pretty bad. Because like we were talking, what was that, Kier, on your Monday morning thing? I think like last week we talked about cilantro and how when some people eat cilantro, it tastes like soap or something like that to them. But then you had mentioned never having cilantro.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay,
It's genetic.
right.
It's a gene that makes certain people predisposed to not like the taste of cilantro. I
Right.
love cilantro. I love
That's
it.
what I'm saying.
I think it is one
So
of the
good.
greatest seasonings ever invented.
Yes, put it on my cereal.
That's not a bad idea.
I know, right?
You're freaking me out right now, Jason.
I mean, I'll try almost anything once. I mean, come on. Like, you guys have never had Birrios?
Yeah, dude, I love Birrios. Birrios are the best.
In fact,
Same
that's
as-
probably what I'll be eating as I go through the hungover critique.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what day was that? Do you remember what day he said it was gonna
January
be?
1st.
January 1st, yes. Tune in.
I'm gonna have
That's
to
gonna be a fun
tune
one.
in, but I'll be in Maine then.
What will you mainly be doing in Maine?
Oh my god.
That was fantastic. Come on.
My friends and I decided to rent a Airbnb at like the tippity top of Maine so we could possibly see the Northern Lights and ring in the new year.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for you, man.
That's
Thank
rad.
you. We found a really nice one where her backyard is Canada. So
Whoa.
we're
yeah.
up there.
Yeah, that's cool, dude.
Yeah, I asked her and she said that, if the conditions are right, you can see them right from the backyard. So we're
Oh,
hoping
man.
for good conditions. Good conditions.
That's just south of Quebec, right?
It's Fort Kent, I think is it. That's what it's called, Fort Kent. Don't ask me about geography. I have no idea. I thought Belgium was in Germany. Remember?
Yeah, no, this is true. You are geographically challenged. This
I
We're
is-
right
really
next
am.
to each other, so
I mean, at least I was close, right?
yep.
But if you ask me, like, where anywhere is, even in the States in this own country, no idea.
that just means you're normal.
Yeah. Way to go.
Believe it or not, like 60% of the United States population can't find on a map where their own state is.
What?
What?
I can at least do that.
What's the percentage on that?
I think it was something like 60%.
Oh, man. You know, I moved around quite a bit as a kid. So, like, one of the things that I liked doing as I got older was jumping in the car and just driving and finding out where the hell you are, you know? One of the things that I recognized pretty early on was that, like, normally there's 2 streets that usually run north and south all the way through town, and east and west all the way through town. So as long as if you're in a new city, you can find those 2 streets. Usually you can get just about anywhere you want to go. But
You want to know where that was pioneered?
where?
Philadelphia.
Nah,
Yeah, Jason told us that when we were out there.
did he? I don't remember.
Remember,
that
he was
one.
our tour guide.
It was the
Yes.
first major city in the United States with a grid-like north, south, east,
That's
west
right.
street
That's
system.
right. I do now. Yeah. All
Yeah, 'cause
right.
if you go to Boston, it's just all over the place.
Oh my gosh. The
Yeah,
nightmare in
they
Boston.
don't have an idea of where they're going.
They don't give a shit out there.
You're
So
in
glad I
Boston.
didn't have to drive when I was there.
Isn't it horrible?
Oh my gosh. So years ago, I stayed with a friend of mine out in Groton, and then we went up through Boston. It was during the off season. We went to go see the witch stuff, and they were driving, and their GPS was one of the old styles, like turn here, and I'm like, what? That's
Yep.
that's a walkway.
Nope, that's a street. That's a full blown street.
So like cobblestones, like no, that's a walkway.
And that's like the only street you can go down is this super tiny one because every other
Yeah.
street is in one way.
And nothing is like right angles. It's like 27-degree angle and 34, and it's so weird.
After the 15th rotary,
Right?
A rotary?
So glad I
oh,
wasn't
yeah,
driving.
there's so many rotaries in Massachusetts. It's
You
insane.
mean roundabouts?
Is that what they're
Roundabouts,
called?
Yeah,
Yeah.
roundabouts. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Rotary, roundabout, dunks.
Dunks?
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gotta love the dunks.
So
That's
you
the one
couldn't
thing I
tell
complained about
what?
when I went to come visit you. Right? Is that I was like, "Do you have like a dunks out here?"
We have 2 of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
in the whole
You
thing.
you guys have dunks like everybody else has Starbucks, right? Like they're just
Well, yeah, you
everywhere.
have to have a dunks in walking distance, or else, like, are you even from here?
Yeah.
You have to have like a dunks that makes your stuff good, and then a dunks that always messes it up every time. Like you tell your friends, okay, let's stop at this dunks over here, and then your friend's like, nah, man, they mess with my food all the time, and you trust him. You're like, all right, cool, let's go to the next one then, because
It's just right around the corner. Don't sweat it.
it's just right down the street is another one. I think I shared with you guys one time the video of where there was a dunks right next to a dunks.
Oh my God, yes, dude.
It took me about a minute after you said dunks to understand what that was. And I
Oh, yeah,
realized
Dunkin'
what it
Donuts,
was
man,
because
I'm
of how
sorry.
many I saw in the airport there.
Yeah. As soon as you get off the flight, as soon as you walk out of the terminal, there it is, right there.
Like 6 of them in one airport.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
we don't mess around with dunks. I find on SNL every time they make fun of Boston, everybody always has dunks in their hands, and it's always an iced coffee.
Okay,
Even
so
though
is
it's
there a staple way of making coffee that everybody takes it there? Like, do they drink it like cream with Boston cream, or what do we do?
No, that's a donut, Ricardo.
I know.
That's a
I'm
donut.
just fucking around. I'm just messing around.
Let me ask you this though: did you ask
Okay.
that question just to set yourself up for that bit, or?
Yes.
Never underestimate Ricardo.
Never underestimate it.
You're a rad dad, Ricardo. You're
That's what
allowed
I'm
to have
saying.
dad jokes.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I think when Ricardo makes his book, he's just gonna have it filled with puns the entire time.
Oh yeah, for
There's
sure, dude.
nothing wrong with that.
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing wrong.
You got to be like, oh man, I got to put this fucking thing down. This guy, This fucking guy.
I can just picture him making his book and laughing at himself.
Dude, how do you know? Oh, it's like, yeah, you just stepped into my brain. Let
Yeah.
me share this. Let me share this video or share this screen real quick. Show you guys where I'm at. Ooh. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that alarm, but it's like what is it? Is today Tuesday? Yes. So it's the first Tuesday of the month. So we got a big alarm going off in the background. Let's start this broadcast. Okay. Getting a little bit closer. Starting to go through and defining some of those edges.
May I say something real quick, Cardo?
Yeah.
You know what I highly appreciate that you do that I always witness immediately whenever you show your stuff? The fact that you work mainly in light source and you add like the smallest amount of black or dark. Just want to throw that out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it seems to work just because it's like I recognize how in your face those bright tones are, you know, those bright negative areas are against the darks. And then these little things, what I've recognized in my black and gray work is actually what helps, like these little tight edges are actually what helps bring the tattoo to life. And a lot of work are just those dark little edges, you know. And because I know for me, when it comes to tattooing black and gray, I try to stick with just three tones. It seems to hold up pretty well with dark, medium, and just a little bit of light. Using the skin as like the lightest source most of the time. So I try to implement that. I think that's what I ended up doing with my charcoal drawings and stuff like that because of it was that kind of value system. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I just think that the common artist always looks at art in the darkest points. Like that's what your eyes look at first is what's darkest. But you work from mid-tone back to lights, then to darks, which I think is very interesting.
Thank you very much. It's a good way to get the information down fast, you know what I mean? And kind of get rid of that like anxiety that comes along with staring at that white canvas, that big open space is just like laughing at you because it's like, you're not going to do shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh yeah, I got you. Let's do this. So that seems to help me whenever I just kind of go through and like almost like an oil painting even, where you wet the canvas, you know what I mean? You get it ready for laying down the oils in that kind of like raw form. And it helps the oil kind of move around the canvas. And I think I like that because I think I implement that in my drawings because of that kind of approach with the oils too. Yeah. I like the way that we have a focal point here around this brow area and letting everything else kind of fade out into the background.
So I see two competing focal points in that. I think the cast shadow,
yeah,
drop shadow.
I did notice
that, and then that ridge right by the ocular socket. I think those are the two competing areas for me.
Mm-hmm.
Ocular socket.
So I think let's see. So let's duplicate this real quick. We'll duplicate that real fast. We'll play around with this one. So let's go and smudge that out a little bit and see how we feel. You're talking about this area right here that I'm smudging right now?
Yes.
So that's competing. So I think if I soften up the edges, I keep some of the value there.
All right, well, I gotta.
How about there?
Better, much better.
Yeah. So there's that one versus that one. Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, softening that up just a little bit really forces your eye back to that really sharp, crisp ridge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it forces you to look. Whereas before, with as crisp as that cast shadow was, it's almost like, well, where should I be looking? Now my attention's divided.
Yes, I got you. Just like that. You helped out so much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do a little bit more erasing here. Then I'm going to show this like playback real quick. I don't even know what time it is.
Oh, I got to get going, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone, for having me on today. And I will catch up with you guys this coming weekend.
See you
Let
soon.
me
All
take it
take
easy,
care,
Jason.
guys.
Bye. Such a fun dude.
Why?
What's that?
I said, what a good guy. What a rad chap.
What a rad
What a-
chap.
Divine human being.
You're a pretty good dude, man. Oh, that's big.
I apologize that I'm not doing art at the same time. I'm just eating my breakfast. So I hope that's okay.
You do you.
You're doing a really good job of that.
Right?
Keep it up.
Thanks. Today I have egg whites and spinach and peppers.
Nice. You getting back to work?
Healthy.
I am cleared to go back to work for this Friday, thankfully.
Nice.
CDC says 10 days after symptoms stop, and my symptoms stopped. It's 10 days after first symptoms start. Sorry, and that would have been Monday, I think. Which is, I think it's crazy that I was the only one out of my whole Thanksgiving party that got it from the host. Of course.
That's the luck of it.
Right. I mean, luckily me and not my grandma or anything like that. Luckily, like the youngest out of the whole family.
They're like, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah. I'll carry the whole team. It's fine. I'll get it for everybody.
What about that cure? Does that compete with that end of the nose? What do you guys think?
So I think when you started getting rid of that cast shadow, it started bringing that ocular area to the front more immediately. So I think if you work on that a little more, it'll push that cast shadow back. But overall, man, it looks great. It's very oil painterly, as it's always that you do.
Oh, thanks.
I had watched this video of this girl who was doing her oil painting stuff, and she was showing her underpainting process. And I'm sure this is something you've done, where you put on like that raw umber, and then you just like coat the whole thing, right? And then you go in with the wet brush and you start marking in all the dark areas. And then she takes a scraper and actually scrapes away all of the lightest lights.
Yep.
And I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Wait
a
minute.
really good way to get the lighter values there, and then like with the oil paints to keep the canvas as raw as you can. That way, whenever you do your lighter values, it's really there's nothing else that competes with it at all. Like as far as the saturation or like the opacity of that pigment. You know what I mean? It really makes it just jump out at you. It's a really good way to kind of do some of the ambient lighting that kind of like falls on the softer parts of the form and stuff like that. But yeah, that's cool. I love that approach. It's definitely the way that I draw. It's definitely the way that I paint and stuff like that too. Yeah, you just literally like erase it. You can take a, some people use like I think the one that you're talking about, the lady used what did she use? She used like a cotton swab, right? Or like a little Q-tip.
Yes.
And kind of pulled it off. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wait,
Yep.
I think
and
I
then
sent it to you.
you sent it to me. You're like, look at this. And I was like, all right. Yeah. a while back. But yeah. Or you can use like a paper towel and just kind of erase it out too. That's why I always say, like with paints in general, you know what I mean? Like it's so, everybody gets so fearful of putting it down and then being entirely upset and wanting to throw the painting away right away. It's like, no, dude, no. It's just paint. You can move it around. You can push it on. You can erase it still, especially when it's still wet. And that's like one of the beauties of acrylics is it's so easy to just go right over it or wipe it off immediately. You know, I don't know. It just takes some of the anxiety out of it for me, knowing that that's the case. You can do that.
Yeah. I mean, art can give you anxiety in many different ways.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, look how terrified a lot of people are of color. You know, it's
Yeah.
like it's just color. it's just magic. That's all.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. For the longest time, every once in a while, I'll still get like that when the client's like, "Well, I'd like this, but I want it in color," and I go, "Okay, let's do this. I got you." But I don't know about you guys.
And they want color for me. I'm like, okay, so this is gonna like double the time frame.
Right, exactly. I always say that to people, like, what do you like doing more, black and gray or color? And I'm like, well, I love doing color, but I just have to study it quite a bit more. You know what I mean? Like with the black and gray, it just seems the shapes just seem to pop out that much sooner. I can understand them a little bit more, but like when you start implementing color as a value, you know, it kind of changes its entire like approach, and it takes that anxiety away for sure.
Mm-hmm. I can't relate. I'm sorry.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Anytime somebody asks for me to do color, I get very excited because I don't do color at all.
Mhm.
I almost asked every single client, like, do you want like maybe just like a little? Let me pour out these pigments, please, like, because they're just staring at me.
I see you post quite a bit of color though. Those are the ones that you're like, see, check it out. This is what I want to do, guys. Come on now.
Yeah. Just pay my dues. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's all good. You'll get there. Keep it going. Keep telling people, yeah, you know what I really like to do is some color. How about some color? Oh, okay, black and gray, cool, no problem.
Everybody's so turned off by it. And I don't know if it's you guys. This is like an open floor question, but okay. I don't know if you guys have been doing like walk-ins or like more smaller stuff. But the trend now is that I've been tattooing a lot of tattoos that look like a kindergartner drew it on purpose. Like I did this armband of like a landscape, and she wanted like a desert landscape. And I was like, this is a really rad idea. I'm so excited for this. And she's like, I want like a UFO in it and like a little cow. And I'm like, oh, this idea is getting better and better. I love it. And she shows me the reference, and the reference literally looks like a kindergartner drew it. She's like, I want it to look like this. And I'm like, okay. So explain to me, do you want it to look like a child drew it, or you just want it to look like, you know, like a mess? And she's like, no, I want it to look like a child drew it. And I was like, what? It's like
you know, this is going to be on you for a while, right? like you can't really change this one too much.
And I've been doing a lot of tattoos like that, or it's just like stick figure type tattoos, or like wiggly lines, or like and stuff like that. I don't know if it's just me or you guys too, but that's a very big trend nowadays.
I see the trend. I am too detail focused, and I have way too much fun adding in those details to take something like that on.
Yeah.
Like I would way overcomplicate it and they wouldn't be happy with me. So I'm just like, yeah, that's not really my forte.
Yeah, it was very difficult to sit down and draw it. And I'd be like, oh, this fence looks like a train track. I'm like, oh, that's what she wants. That's right.
So props to you because you can do it. Yeah, that's.
Let me see if I can find the stencil still of it. I'm pretty positive I do.
I have a friend of mine that does. He's a pretty good artist, and he can do some realistic looking drawings and stuff like that. But he started doing more traditional work and like real super solid traditional work. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, When's the last time you tried to draw something that flat?" I was like, "I don't know." And I tried to do it, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's kind of difficult."
It really is difficult.
Yeah, it is. Like you wrap your head around the idea of like learning all these forms and how light affects things and stuff like that, and shadow, time and space and all that stuff. And then you go to draw something flat, and you're like, what the hell? Seriously.
I can't. It's too simple.
Yeah.
No, I don't have it. I got rid of it. But yeah, that's been the trend lately.
Yeah,
I've been doing a lot of little characters and stuff like that are like drawn like backwards and like upside down with like one eye or something. Love it. Think it's really cute and everything, but it is very difficult to just not be like, so where's the light source?
where's the contour lining?
Yeah, we're just like, all right.
Got me done with this tattoo in 2 minutes. What the heck?
Yeah. I had a very movie client like a couple weeks ago, which I guess I could ask too. What do you guys do when you have a client that just won't sit still? Go.
Yeah, that one's pretty fun. I usually just look at them and I go, man, do you want this tattoo to be like kind of good or really good? Like, because it's really up to you, But a lot of times in all reality, like what I'll do is I'll just try to ask him if we can switch positions. Like a lot of times if you lay him down, that'll change everything up right away. What about you, Melissa?
I don't get a lot of them too much anymore. I do have one client that she has a heck of a time, and part of it's psychological. She had cancer when she was young. And so she has a hard time with needles. I've worked with her for like 4 years. And so I will, if I know the client enough, then I will go into the tattoo differently than I would with, someone who sits perfectly still. I will, instead of a black line, if it's a realistic piece, I will do a gray line instead of a black line, knowing that I'm going to bump shades, well, even black shades up against it to bring it forward, just because I know that she's going to be moving that whole stinking time. And there's nothing I can do to get her to chill. Like I can try and talk her through it. I can do, I try to talk them through it, but sometimes it's almost impossible. And so I'll actually approach the tattoo completely differently than I would normally.
Well, that's very
So I don't know if
smart.
that helps.
That's very smart to have like preparation for it. My mentor taught me how to test for because people will like pre-tremor before they actually shake. Like what will happen is like their toes will either twitch first before they do, or their toes will start to like curl inwards before they fully twitch. So making sure you watch for that so that you can lift off when they do the final jolt so you don't screw up. Also, you can count how long they can last themselves. Sometimes it's like 3 seconds. Sometimes it's like, okay, drop in 1, 2, 3, lift off, drop in 1, 2, 3, lift off. And that's how you can kind of coast them through that process. This client, sweetest lady on the planet, and it always is the sweetest people on the planet. And she was moving a whole bunch, even when I was just putting the stencil on her. And that's when I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. But I at first tried to make light of the situation. I felt like a comedian. I was just going into a comedy bit, telling her about stories of my life and stuff like that to try and keep her distracted. Then at a certain point, she was hyperventilating, but it was herself making herself hyperventilate just because she was so worked up about it. So then we had to go into a meditative practice.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Sometimes
I can't tattoo you and continue to tattoo you unless we breathe.
Sometimes it's a matter, like when they get into that hyperventilative state, it's that they don't realize it.
Yep.
So I do have some clients that take a lot of energy in that regard for me to be aware of, more aware or hyper aware of where they are in their mindset, because they don't realize it. And so like I'll be going, through a line or something, and I know it's in a rough spot, or I'll be shading something super, in a super tender spot. And like, as I'm doing it, I'm going, breathe, 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 breathe.
Yeah.
And just
That
me
one seems to work out
saying
quite
it
well.
is enough for them to go, oh, right.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as like when it comes to them being vocal, like she was, obviously very vocal as well. And that part does not bother me even a little bit. Like I can zone that out. Like there's no tomorrow. Because I'm so focused on like trying to get them not to move that I don't care. It's they're like acting like they're giving birth on my table.
Like what? What was going on here?
Yeah, but it definitely had gotten to a point where I was like, okay, listen. Like it's all cool and fun and games and stuff like that, but in all seriousness, you just gotta breathe. You're definitely making this a little bit more difficult than it needs to be.
Right.
And trust me, I want to get this done for you as much as you want this done. So the moment that we can like work together on this, then we can get you out of this chair as fast as possible. But the more times you move, the more times I have to go over stuff, and that's just going to suck more for you. And I think like that helped her a lot, because it was kind of just like an open communication of like, hey man, I know you're dying, but so I think it's nice to be able to do that.
I agree with both ways. I totally get like the joking thing works out so well for me too. You know what I mean? Especially when I tell them, man, I was like, I don't understand why you're acting like this hurts. It doesn't hurt me one bit. Like that one usually works out pretty well for people. And then the other one is that reminding them to breathe and like just kind of making them aware of their presence and stuff like that. I like to try to tell people like when you breathe, when it hurts, that's when you want to breathe in and breathe out. Like especially on that painful part, you want to let it out, and then breathe back in once we get that alleviation from the actual application of the tattoo. And then like the other thing that works for me is like when I'm breathing that way, I like to try to imagine whatever I feel touching the surface of the table or the chair that I'm sitting on. That's what I try to imagine, like kind of just falling through the table almost, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like we're almost kind of floating a little bit. That works out for me pretty well. And usually when I describe it to people, they're like, oh my God, what the hell? Like I can relax a little bit. And I was like, that's exactly what you're doing. You're just letting your body relax, dude. You're so tense.
Yeah.
And that's usually what it is. It's not really the pain, so to speak. It's that idea, that interpretation of the pain that hurts them more than anything else, I think.
Yeah. And I told them to like count sheep too. Like that's a thing I always tell people when they start getting a little pained. Like the moment that I was like, the moment that you feel the pain, like moment you feel me hit your skin, just start counting sheep. Just like 1 sheep, 2 sheep. And then like the next thing you know, I'm out. And then next thing you know, when I go back in, start counting again. And then, some lines will be longer than others, but next thing you know, it'll be done. And that's a good take that I have people, because it's distracting people.
Yep.
From what's actually going on, because that's the reason why they think it's a quote unquote taking so long or being so painful, is because they're hyper vigilant on it.
Right.
And I tell people all the time too not to smoke weed before they come into the session.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure. A lot of people think they're like, oh, I smoked before I came in. I'm like, well, okay, we'll see how this goes.
This is gonna suck.
Yeah, I usually try not to tell them that, because a lot of times it's just that idea that you implement into people's heads that make them think that. But yeah, a lot of the times they're like, man, that hurt way worse than last time. Like, well, what'd you do different? They're like, well, I smoked before I came in. I'm like, there you go. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't tell people not to do it by any means, but It's definitely something that does create like pain. What I've recognized is it amplifies it more than anything else. It
Yeah,
has
you're
that
hyper.
adverse effect. Yeah, exactly. Hyper
Yeah.
aware of it.
Yeah. I took upon what Renee Little did at where she told us that she does at the Paradise BYOB, where she hands out those pre-tattoo appointment guides. Like they're like almost contracts that she goes over with all her clients before they leave. And I started
Oh,
doing that. And ever since I started doing that, every client has come in prepared. I'm like, oh, this is
nice.
amazing.
Great.
Nice. You actually
And I've
read the
even,
homework?
yeah, literally, I get so hyped up. And then some people will actually do the moisturizing step because I'll tell them that they can moisturize the area that's gonna be tattooed like a week prior, softens up the skin for me. Ah, when they tell me they've done that, it makes my life so much easier.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, this isn't like cracked, dry skin. This is amazing.
Now I know what teachers feel like when somebody actually listens to what they tell them.
Yeah, one single tear fell from my face.
Pretty good, man. I like that. Well,
Yeah. I wanted
coming
to ask Melissa if did you just buy those heavy body acrylics today? Or are you using that on your painting that you're doing?
So I saw, I've never shopped at your guys' Jerry's Artorama, and I saw they had a major sale going on today, so I splurged a little bit, and it was better than
Nice.
Blick on the Black Friday sale. So I was like,
I
yeah.
love Jerry.
So I just bought them today, so they won't be in for a bit. But I've never actually tried the heavy body, so it's like, yeah, let's try. And it comes with the Golden Acrylics coffee mug, the Java thing. I was like, yes, I need
Aw.
another coffee cup.
Wait, what brand did you get? Did you get Golden or Liquitex?
I got the golden.
Okay, I have the Liquitex, so I'd love to know what your take is on that, and if there's any like differences. I'm a Liquitex
I've
fan.
never tried the liquid text, but I've always been golden pre Arteza. I
Oh
kind
yeah,
of mix
yeah.
it up between the two at this point. So I'm familiar with golden. Liquitex, the only thing I've ever used of theirs was their clear gesso.
Yeah. Their mediums, I like their mediums too. I like Golden mediums more than Liquitex, and I like Liquitex's paints better. But I've been a Liquitex fan since I started painting. So I've been wanting to switch over, but anytime you want to switch over to a different brand, like officially, it's like I gotta replace all these payments.
Right.
It's expensive. But definitely let me know. I'd love to know when they come in how they are. It's definitely a more of a tacky texture than softer body acrylics. Like it's definitely got a tack to it. So definitely just beware of that, I guess, because it will leave, like when you start to blend in with other colors, it will be a little tacky.
No, thank you.
And use way more water than you're used to. That too.
Does that help it blend a little bit more?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think it helps it blend much better. It's probably why I got these pigments or these ones that I bought to last forever. Because I'll literally squeeze out like a little boop, and then they'll last me like the whole painting.
Well, boop.
Let me see. I have because I got like the little tiny ones because I wanted to try them. And let's see. I haven't even put a dent into them. Let's see here. Yeah, these ones. Let's see. That's the ones that I have, Melissa. These ones here.
Okay.
Acrylic. Yep. And like a dent, literally a dent. And I use a ton of this color. So I definitely highly recommend. For sure.
I'll let you know how the golden ones are. Like I said, I'm just used to golden, so
Yeah.
and then I'm a deal shopper, so it was a
Oh,
splurge, but you know.
yeah. And I mean, not gonna lie, those like the super cheap paints that you can find at like Ocean State Job Lot are actually pretty amazing. If you guys have an Ocean State Job Lot, do you guys have that?
Never,
Don't.
no, I never even heard of it. Yeah.
You don't even
No.
know what that is? Oh,
Mm-mm.
Nope.
all right
I'm
then.
assuming it'd be the equivalent of like a craft warehouse.
Would you? Oh, my roommate's in front of me. Would you think that Ocean State Job Lot is like a craft warehouse? No, no.
No?
Good deals.
It's definitely like I don't know. It's
Or like a Michael's or something.
no, it's not a craft store. They kind of got a little bit of everything.
Oh,
No,
okay.
but I'm referring to like quality when you go for
Oh,
the
quality?
cheaper brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not like those cheap acrylics where it's like water. Like it's got a really good consistency to it. The pigmentation might not be like the coolest, but honestly, those more softer bodied acrylic, paints to me are great for mixing. Like to use as just
Right.
like a tone to mix with into a heavy body acrylic that can just make it super pigmented, and then you can just plaster it on that way.
Okay.
That's one of the things that I'll say for sure. Kira, I don't know, or you as well, Melissa, is that like, or anybody that's watching, is like when you've started out painting with like cheaper paints, to try to save a buck, versus when you actually could spend a little bit of money on something. How much of a difference did you guys notice that the struggle to actually paint the picture you wanted to paint was less than whenever you versus when you painted with quality paints versus like really cheap paints? Did you guys find yourself struggling a lot less that way?
For me, it was major.
Yeah.
I like getting a good solid coat on something first, and you cannot do that with cheap.
Nope.
You use way too much of it. You wind up basically spending the same amount you would with something that's higher quality trying to cover a canvas than you would just buying the higher quality and going from the get.
Yeah.
Yep.
But on top of that, you risk light fastness, which is a huge thing. Especially like if you're practicing something, cool, use the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something that you want to sell later, go for at least something middle range, at least.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I noticed, you know what I mean? Like, especially when it came to oils, is like I was so apprehensive on spending my money on the wrong product. It's not that I didn't want to pay for it. It's just the fact that I didn't want to buy the wrong product. Because you get a lot of different, opinions when it comes to oils and acrylics and stuff like that. Like, I guess a lot of it has to do with the person that's using it. But man, when I switched over to like a pretty decent quality of oils, man, it was like night and day difference, dude. Like it was spread easier, you know what I mean? It was less frustrating and stuff like that.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is that you don't always necessarily know what's low, mid, high, except by the price.
Yeah.
So you actually kind of have to do a little bit of research because I mean, like Gamblin oils, they have a student grade and they have a professional grade, and you have to know which one's which because it doesn't tell you this is student grade.
Right.
And the difference between the two is the amount of fillers.
Uh-huh.
So, and then of course the longevity of it. So it's one of those things, buyer beware. You got to kind of do your research a little bit to know what's what sometimes.
Agreed.
I completely agree with that. I think it's all in the consistency that you're looking for too, which is another thing that my mentor taught me, was that you won't really know what consistency you're looking for until you truly understand how to paint with just water and nothing else. Because that's how you can find proper consistency. Like now at this point, I know exactly what consistency I'm looking for. And I know when it's there just based upon the weight of my paintbrush. But somebody who's just starting out has no idea what consistency they're looking for. So they're going to be more gravitated towards the more expensive ones, but may not know how to wield them, you know? Like I wouldn't recommend
Right.
to somebody who just started painting today to go out and buy heavy body acrylics, because they're going to have no idea how to process with that.
Yep. I like
So-
that idea. I never heard it described or explained as the weight of the brush. That makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? I can see
Yeah.
that for sure. That's a good way to describe it.
I
And I
can
guess
tell
it
you
depends
with,
on, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it depends on the weight, the scale of the weight, but
Mhm.
that's another
So-
time and place.
So with acrylics, what I've learned from other classes and stuff that I've taken is that it should be on the thicker side. If you take a cheap, a medium, and a high end, and you dip your paintbrush about the same amount of paint, and you just do a streak across, you can see the difference by how much opacity is left before you see that canvas.
Yep.
And I don't know how that equates with the heavy body because I haven't used them, but I can tell you that I haven't seen any heavy body haven't researched that's not coming from a brand I don't already trust as being a higher end. So that may equivalate over on the heavy body side, it may not, but with a standard acrylic, if you have a translucency without adding water, you are on the low end.
Yeah. Yep. I do agree with that. That's why usually with those, I usually only use those to mix with the heavy bodies at this point.
Right.
Which is weird because like with those, I don't know if it's just me, but with those cheaper brands, you almost will keep staying at that translucency consistency that you're talking about, Melissa, until you add white or black to it. Then it like immediately has a pigment to it, and you're like, oh all right. Which in painting terms, myself, opinion based right now only, myself, I don't use white or black until like almost the very end. So
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. That's definitely a good way to do it. You study, you get a good study of the form and shape that way. And then because the white and black are usually what help draw your eye to the focal point.
Yeah. And it gives you a wrong start on how to work with colors, because
Right.
everybody thinks that just adding white or black to dark or lighten something is the way to go.
Right.
That's like, I mean, it could be, but that's a completely different study that you're doing. You're almost doing a mathematic study, not so much a color theory study.
Right. Yeah, because it takes a lot of different colors to kind of make a certain value that you're looking for, or I'm sorry, a hue or a color,
Yeah.
So
you're tinting.
Tinting, yeah.
I think it's easier learning color theory without the use of black or white initially. So many times you get in there and you're using black and white, you don't quite understand how the colors work to create your midtone, your grays. So it's kind of like you learn backwards. You're given a paint set and you're like, oh cool, I got white and black and I got this and this and this, and you wind up using white and black to give you that gray instead of using the colors to give you a gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, when you exit out white or black, you now are going like, okay, how do I make this color darker but still keep it within the same hue range? So you're solving problems. And I think color theorists are legit chemists. So
Strangely enough, I use a lot of white and black while I'm working with my paint, but it's not from lack of color theory. It's my stuff is super, super bright and I would rather be lazy.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like a lot of people like using white and black. Like that's what they do, But if you're going into something desperately trying to learn how color theory works, then I don't think that that's the right avenue.
Correct. It took me a long time to learn color theory because I always use white and black. And now that I know it, it's like, okay, now I can relax a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't really until I started learning temperature to when I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's when I took out the white and the black. And I was like, I get it. This makes sense.
All right, so I think I'm good here. What time is it, guys? Do you all know the time by any chance? Let's see here.
Our time or your time, bud?
I got 10:41. So like you guys are 11. Well, I'm 10:41. That makes you guys 11:41. What time does that make you, Melissa?
I am 7:41 then.
Dang.
11. I'm 3 hours behind Eastern. So
That'd be 8. Wait.
8:41. Yeah.
8:41.
Yeah, 2 hours behind me. Yep. Good thing we're artists, guys.
That's why I always tell people, I'm like, I just draw pictures. I don't know.
I just draw the pretty pictures, you know what I mean?
I can draw a stick figure better than other people. That's about it.
Yeah. I'm going to show this replay real quick, and then I think I might be signing off, and we'll have you guys give a shout out if that's cool with y'all. Let me do this real fast. So that's what I was talking about right there, is that background, just smudging a bunch of like medium tonal value around, and start, like Akira was talking about, like starting to recognize those shapes with the highlights, and getting the form and the proportions down by recognizing those higher points of value that I see. I'll let it keep going, and there's a bunch of rendering here that was taking place. There, right there, I'm recognizing the placement and the spatial awareness as far as like where the highlights and the darker points are, and I'm using them as the anchor points as far as proportions, making sure that everything kind of stays in check. And I'll literally go through, even in my paintings, I'll go through and just put these little lines, that triangle kind of shape that you saw me put down there. And still trying to study like where the darks are going to be and how the higher highlights are going to be affected by those darker values next to it. And again, I'm starting to play around here with like the focal point. I recognized pretty quick that I wanted the eye socket, the ocular socket cavity that Jason was talking about. Morphing some things around. So we talked about the focal point. I love this approach though. It keeps it loose. Being able to layer like this. I'm not working on any extra layers outside of, I'm not adding any layers or anything like that. The only time that I'll add any layers in Procreate is to kind of experiment with like maybe a color that I might introduce to it or something like that, and kind of lay it on top of it. But other than that, I love using the surrounding area. It's almost like when you paint the surrounding area, the wetness of the other paints that kind of blend with each other. It's the same thing in Procreate. I approach it the same way as I would a painting. Not being too worried about anything smudging together, because it's always something that you can kind of warp or erase or blend together a little bit more. But this is a quick little study on the dynamic lighting. What do you guys think? Did it work?
Rad.
I feel like I've learned dynamic lighting.
Sweet. Mission accomplished. All right, so let me go ahead and close this out real fast, and we'll go around the room and let you guys give us a shout out and let us know where you're from and what's going on with you, how people can get a hold of you. Melissa, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure.
Let's give you a pin here.
Tried
Okay, go
adjusting
ahead.
my camera so that you could see it a little bit
Yeah.
better.
No, that looks great.
So, thank you. Long ways from being done, but hey. My name is Melissa Sink. I am located out in Staten, Oregon. It's just a single little private studio. Find me on Instagram at MAC_MISSA. I only do bookings and stuff through the website, links on the Instagram. So, but yeah, any questions or anything, feel free to comment on something or reach out. Be more than happy to respond.
Thanks for joining us this morning. I know it's really early out there, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, killer. Let's get you here. You got your pen.
Hi. My name's Kirsten Franklin, and I'm from Western Massachusetts. And you can find me on Instagram at Frankie Says Things and at Reinventing the Tattoo at Frankie Tattoos Things. I usually host Thursday morning fundamentals at 10 a.m. Eastern time and the Monday morning drawing group at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So if you want to chat and learn some stuff, feel free to check those out. I've been sick with the Rona the past week, but I think that after this week, I will be back to it.
Rock and roll. I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah, for sure. That's not the my Sharona, it was the Corona, right?
We had to slide one more in there before we left.
You got to do it, man. You got to do it. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me this morning. It was great hanging out with you both. Jason was on earlier. You guys want to sign in, jump on in. It's fun to hang out. It's fun to meet new people, new artists and stuff like that. Get your ideas, get your approaches, have some conversation about life and stuff like that too. I know for me, it's very important to kind of describe my emotions and my thoughts and stuff like that that I feel are involved in our art for sure. My name is Ricardo Sturdivant. You can catch me again next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. You can reach me on Instagram at Candor Tattoo. That's CANDOR Tattoo. Thank you guys again for joining. Melissa, I appreciate it so much. Kier, awesome. Thank you for joining in today. And everybody else out in the chat room. Lauren, thank you so much for all your help. I couldn't do this without you. I am not technically inclined yet, so thank you very much. Guy and Gabe, thank you for all the work that you do behind the scenes. Sandy, thank you so much. Everybody, have a good morning. Talk to y'all later.